Okay, so now that we've seen how to create a random image that gets pulled into the page, just in the regular HTML, one of the other things that we can do is use the same principles to pull in the exact same kind of thing, but into a style, so that let's say that you give it a body background, okay? So what I'd like to do before I get into that real quickly is I would like to go ahead and I'm going to create a style sheet so that I can pull some of this stuff out. So we're going to do new, and I'm going to create a CSS style sheet. And and you may already have a style sheet that you've been working with for something, but just remember you can always take these styles and you can copy them and you can paste them later into a different style sheet. So don't try to do this all in one big project. Try to keep your exercise separate. So anyway, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to remove this part where it says style, and I'm going to just pull that out so that no matter what, I don't have to sit there and look at a style that's sitting right there. Okay, and I'm going to paste that in here. Now, before I do anything, I want to do a couple of really basic things. Now, presumably I would have a reset that would already be loaded if this were something that wasn't just an exercise, but I'm just going to do some really basic cleanup stuff. So that I don't have to worry about things like the body not having, so that it doesn't have that weird margin that goes around it. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and do that. The other thing is I'm going to do stuff like UL. I'm going to tell it to have no margin and no padding, because ULs love to apply, or they love to get default browser style sheet padding applied to them. So I'm going to just do that really quickly. The other thing really quickly I'm going to do is I'm going to create something for a section, because I'm going to create a section tag so that I can have some of the stuff being pulled off the edge of the browser. I'm going to put all of my content inside of something called a section. And if I wanted, I could even do like section whose ID is content or something like that, right? So let's say that that's going to have a width of maybe, I don't know, let's say 80% or something, and it's going to have a background of, and I'll do an RGBA so that we can sort of see through it a little bit if we want to be able to see through it, and we'll do RGBA of white. So it'll be 255, 255, 255, and then I'll do 0.97 so that it's mostly opaque, but it's like got a 0.03 opacity, transparency, I mean, set. And the next thing that I want to do actually is probably right after the width actually is I wanted to set my margin so that it's auto. So I don't really care if it has a top margin, bottom margin, whatever. I just want it to be auto left and right. And I'm also going to give it some padding as well, so that things aren't just stuck right up to the edge. So I'll give it a padding of maybe 5, let's say like 1.5 M or something like that. And because I'm adding padding, I want to also go ahead and tell it to have box sizing whose value is border box. And what that's going to do, and I guess I added so much stuff that I should probably start to segregate some of these things for you. Let's do this. And the reason I'm doing these styles this way, some just really basic, simple styles, is because I want to be able to have my content not cinched right up to the edges of things, and once we get a background image, I want to be able to read my text, which is why I'm giving this a background color. And the box sizing, if you don't know about this, it's a CSS3 thing, and basically what it does is that, normally without box sizing in CSS2, in older browsers, if I were to give something a width of 80% and then I added padding, that padding would be added to the width, and so it'd actually be more than 80% wide. And that's also true of like the border as well. Well, with box sizing, what it does is it says, okay, I want everything, I want the padding to be included inside of the 80%. So it makes that adjustment for you so you don't have to do the math. Okay, so let's just, let's start with that for a minute. And we're going to save that. And I'm not going to, I mean, I guess I could put it inside of a CSS file folder, but I'm just going to have it floating around. I can always put other CSS in a CSS folder. I kind of like to have my styles just sitting there next to it, but you know, that's really up to you how you want to do that. All right, so I'm going to hit save. And then here I need to actually make the attachment to it up here. So in the head, I'm going to say link, and then we'll do an href. Oops. Href equals, and I could browse for it, but I already know that it's right in my main directory there. And we're going to do a relationship, and it's going to be a style sheet like that, and that's good enough. Okay, so we're going to save that, and then now if we do a test, we can come back over and hit refresh, and it doesn't really look like a whole lot. Oh, and it doesn't look like a whole lot because we didn't actually add the section. Okay, so if I go here and inside of the body, I wrap everything in a section tag, and I give it an ID of content. That's going to help a lot. And then I can go down to the very bottom, and I can close that section tag. All right, and now if I save it, let's try that again. And you see that everything sort of got pinched inward, all right? And then if I really wanted to, what I could also do is I could, to make it really clear, I could go back to my style sheet, and inside the style sheet, and I can close my style sheet now because in Dreamweaver, it shows me my asset right there that's being loaded. So in my body, I could also give it a background color of like black or something. I don't necessarily want to do that, but I'll just do gray, just so you can see the delineation of the space. And so now you can see that the section is in fact being pushed in a little bit. Okay, so that is at least gives me kind of like a head start. And I don't have any kind of responsive design stuff stuck in there, so this is fine for now. Okay, let's get to it, and let's go back to our file, and I'm going to go back to source code. And if we're, you know, you go back down towards the bottom and you see where we are doing our random image stuff. And so that it's a little bit easier to see, you know, where we are with this, I'm going to tab that in so that you can see that it's in line with these other things. And I'll do the same thing here as well. And, you know, the reason I'm tabbing that in is so that you can really see that it's you know, it's all part of the same thing. It's, you know, a little bit cleaner looking. It's easier, I think, to read. Now, and I can remove this thing that says these are the styles to be removed later. Now, this is all part of my grab random image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and create lots of space in the sort of the white space. And now, instead of doing grab random image, all right, I'm going to do, oh, and then I need some PHP here. And then I'll need to end my PHP, of course. But I'll say for background. And I'll even say for body background. Let's say that this is going to be applied to the body. So I can basically do the same thing as I did up here. I can grab this this whole image rand thing, okay, and it's going to be the same principle. And I don't need alt text if it's going to be for a background image. What I really need to do is, this is where I would have to create something that's embedded or that's going to come in line. And essentially, I'm just going to create some CSS right here. So I want a style tag. You see, I can't do that all of a sudden because I'm in my PHP. So let's clean this tag. Let's clean that tag up a little bit. and we'll come down here and I will do my style tag, like I said. And inside of my style tag, I'll put some styles. Okay, so this is where I want to call. I want to call for the body, and I am actually going to, and for my body, I'm actually going to tell it to have a background, and this is going to override anything that preceded it. So if I wanted to have a background color, I can, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to say URL, and then I'm going to leave that blank for just a minute, and I'm going to call a URL in there, but what I want to do is create something that does not repeat. So I want to say no repeat. And then I want it to be centered. Oops. I want it to be center, because I want it to be centered both vertically and horizontally. And I also want it to be fixed so that it is fixed and it doesn't scroll. So that's going to be the basis of that. All right. And then the next thing I want to do is call it out with PHP. All right. And then I'm going to have to echo. And then what am I going to be calling? Well, I'm going to be calling current gallery path, right? I'm just going to type it here. So I'm going to be calling current gallery path, concatenate that. And instead of medium, I want large, because the large directory is what I need for a big background image. And then what I'm going to do here is do that raw URL encode of image, right? Okay, and so that's going to be my URL for the background. After the background, I'm also going to do a size and cover, and I like to cover all my bases and make sure that it's good, depending on older browsers and stuff, that it's good for WebKit, Mozilla, and Opera, and then for other stuff, background size cover for Internet Explorer. And I hit save, and let's just do a really quick test over here. And then you see what's happening is it is actually randomly grabbing a picture for the background image, okay? Which is kind of cool. And then if you wanted to look at it in the inspector and see what was happening, you'll see it where it's being called, actually. And it's being called like down here in the styles. Now, this is something that would change later whenever we create it as a function. You can call it wherever you want, and it would be more appropriate then to call it up in the head. But right now it's being called down here, and that's okay. So in the next demonstration, I'm going to show you then how you can go ahead and start to generate a list. We're going to sort of use this as a launch point. Actually, we're going to use some of this other stuff too, but we're going to go over how you can make a list and make a jQuery lightbox out of it.